Whether you watch the show for the souvenir programs and autographs my dad acquired in the 1950s, the view of the Monterey Bay and the Pacific Ocean, or if you're like the majority of those that listen to my show at night as a cure for insomnia, whatever the case may be, thanks for tuning in. And to those of you who are using this as a sleep aid, you're welcome. That is, if you're not already asleep, he says 20 seconds into the show. If you watch or listen to my show, then you'll know I'm all about the odds or chances and how I like to bring up timing and luck. And how I occasionally talk about the stars in the universe, and I will mention the aligning of those stars from time to time. Not because I'm an old hippie, but it adds to the story. And I'm so used to writing 10,000-word essays on why what I did was wrong that by now it's just second nature to throw in a bunch of extra words. Making me write essays as a punishment never worked when I was a kid. It didn't work in elementary school when the teacher made me write a 1,000-word essay on why the classroom is not a playground. Didn't work in junior high when I was caught pitching coins at recess and had to write a 5,000-word essay on why gambling at school is wrong. That by high school I could crank out a 10,000-word essay in my sleep on why fighting on campus is not allowed. So now you see how I can take a 5-minute video and turn it into a 21-minute mini saga if the need be. Second nature, it's hard to fight. So are bad habits, but it can be done, and you can do it if you put your mind to it. For a little while in elementary school, I used to bite my nails until I chose to stop. Now that I think about it, maybe it's just a coincidence, but that's about the same time I started drinking beer and smoking cigarettes. Here's a few extra words I can throw into this essay that I haven't used lately. You heard the saying, head in the clouds? Oh, I was way past that. My mind was in the stratosphere. Well, I was told to dream big and shoot for the stars. And when they saw that wasn't going to happen and I had no shot at being a star, they started saying things like, get your head out of the clouds. Quit dreaming, airhead. You had your chance. Now go get a job. So I did. In the 4th grade, my mom took me down to the local newspaper, and I became a paper boy. But my head wasn't in the clouds, and I certainly wasn't dreaming. In fact, a few years later, it felt like a nightmare, mired in the fog of springtime hay fever. Junior high was brutal, sitting in class with a runny nose that you don't want to blow because you think somebody's going to say, gross. My mom said wiping my nose on my shirt in class is not how most 12-year-old boys attract girls. Ah, yes, the old saying, shoot for the stars and settle on a cloud. For me, the stars were out of my reach, or I didn't try hard enough to reach them. I couldn't even decide which cloud to settle on. Then in high school, I was again mired in fog, but it was the fog of indecision. It took a couple of years for me to figure out what I wanted to be in life, and then I found it, and they even have a college for it. It's called Clown College. There's only one career that brings more joy to a child than a part-time semi-pro clown, and that is a full-time professional clown. I'll talk about how I almost got kicked out of Clown Junior College another time. And yes, my professor made me write an essay. But why dwell on the bad times? Because look at me, Ma, I'm on top of the world. Because where I live now, 3,000 feet up on top of a mountain, I'm no longer in the fog, but looking down at it. And the clouds, they're always within reach. But not the stars, I'll never reach those. Even though when I look up at the night sky, they appear close enough to touch. And if you wait a minute or two, one of those stars will either shoot or fall from view. Some who come up here to visit call it God's country. The thing about that is I have a good chance of beating the odds in God's country. Not in the long run, of course, but in the meantime, where I just have to be smarter than his plants and animals. But when it comes to the wrath of Mother Nature, I usually lose, sometimes badly, no matter how well I prepared for her unpredictable storms. Women, can't live with them, can't live without them. But I'm trying. Like kids, I love kids, and I love them even more because I know when they come over, they're gonna be leaving with their parents. What are the best kind of kids? Those I don't see or hear. I'm kidding. I love the sound of children playing on TV. So let's go. Here's another story about a record-setting baseball player who only hit one big league home run, but he made that round tripper count because it put him in the record books as the first and only player to do what he did. Over the 3 different centuries they've been playing professional baseball, there's been a few thousand grand slams hitting the majors, but just over 200 inside the park grand slams, which is considered one of the most exciting plays in all of baseball. And I'm sure it was for William James Milne, nicknamed Pete. Why Pete instead of Bill or Jim? I don't know. Another unexplained nickname. On top of that, my dad calls him Milne. Yet when I check the pronunciation of his name like I do for my shows, his name is pronounced Milne, like the Winnie the Pooh author, A. Milne. But if my pop says it's Milne, that's what I'm going with. And I did an episode on Jerry Casale, who is Italian. I called him Casale. My dad said it's Casale, which makes sense. A lot of players try to make their first or last name sound more American. Mario Candini became Milo. Solomon Hyman named himself Jimmy Reese. Getting back to Pete Milne, the name Milne does sound a little bit too German for back then. Outfielder, first base, MLB debut 1948. Another player who did something spectacular, yet there was very little info in the way of his personal life. All I can tell you is he was born and raised in Mobile, Alabama, and passed away there a day after his 74th birthday. I can tell you more about his relatively short MLB career than I can tell you about his entire life. Pete was signed by the Cleveland Indians in 1943 and played for their Batavia Clippers at first base, batting .332, but he would miss the next 2 years of ball while serving his country in the military during World War II. I can't even tell you what branch of the military he served in. Pete returned to baseball in 1946 and for the next 2 years played with the Wilkes-Barre Barons, the Charleston Rebels, and the Spartansburg Peaches. Pete was drafted out of the Cleveland farm system by the New York Giants in 1947 minor league draft and played most of the 1948 season for the Jersey City Giants, one of the Giants' top farm clubs. Pete Milne made his MLB debut on September 15, 1948, when he came into the game as a pinch runner. He had a couple of at-bats and played in 12 games down the stretch for the Giants that season. He was on the Giants' 1949 opening day roster, playing in 31 games, one of those historic, before being sent back down to the minors, rejoining Jersey City. For 1950, Pete would split time between Jersey City and the Minneapolis Millers before getting one more late season chance in the bigs. He went 1 for 4 in that game and was done in the majors. Of course, he didn't know it. In 1951, with the Millers, Pete played in 131 games, doing well, hitting .300, but not well enough, and spent the next 3 seasons with the Oakland Oaks of the Pacific Coast League, and would stay in that league for the 1955 season, playing with the Sacramento Solons. That's the scorecard you're looking at. 1956 would see Pete finishing his baseball career with the organization he started out with, the Cleveland Indians, playing on their Mobile Bears ball club. Another player who did something that nobody had ever done before or since in the history of Major League Baseball. Another oddball record in the annals of baseball record books. Like Joe Hatton's 51-pitch complete game win, or Ron Nachai's 27 strikeout performance, or Gene Stevens' 3 hits in 1 inning. Here's a feat never before accomplished in the history of pro ball until Pete Milne did it, when he hit his one and only Major League home run, and it was spectacular, even though it's not a Grand Slam home run that's really talked about from an obscure player who has one baseball card, a 1953 Mother's Cookies card in his Oakland Oaks uniform. So it was just over 75 years ago at the Polo Grounds on April 27, 1949, the Brooklyn Dodgers were visiting the New York Giants. The man of the moment, Pete Milne, comes into the game in the 7th inning to pinch hit for the Giants pitcher Andy Hansen. The Giants are losing 8-6 when Pete walks up to the plate to face Dodger pitcher Pat McLaughlin. The bases are loaded with 2 away. Pete swings at the first pitch and connects, ripping the ball towards left field, where it goes past a diving Duke Snider all the way to the wall, and before Duke could pick it up and throw it towards home plate, Pete Milne had already crossed it, standing up, making him the first and only player in MLB history to record a pinch hit inside the park grand slam home run. How cool is that? Your one and only home run in the majors, and it puts you in the MLB record book. A home run in the history of Major League Baseball no one has ever hit before or since.